What is your opinion about jazz music today?
My opinion about jazz music today is pretty negative. I don't even use the word jazz in my posters or my biographies or anything anymore, because I consider jazz to be sort of dialectically dead. I think it's gone through its creative process and has come full circle to the point where, since I would say the early 70s, I consider that very little creatively has happened in the jazz idiom. And I think the real creative music now in my area is in free improvisation or free improvised music. And I think that's where the experimenters are, and the people who are really trying to advance things conceptually and emotionally and otherwise.
Thank you. Okay. Final question, or second last question. How would you describe the connection between art and music and the creative process?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't consider that there's any gulf between art and music. I consider them both one and part of the other. With one exception, I think most musicians I regard as sort of mechanics who are trained in the basics of music, but who just sort of play by rote and just follow all the technical stuff per se, just ad nausea, and there's actually very little creative element to the music. So as far as jazz is concerned, I feel very critical of it. And for example, the local jazz association, the London Jazz Society, when I got here in 1966, they were bringing in Dixieland bands from Toronto, and in 2008, they're essentially bringing in white Dixieland bands from Toronto. And there's nothing wrong with that, but as far as a jazz society, I think they're pretty hopeless.
Okay, thanks. Last question. You're here now in London. You've traveled around and you've come back. How would you describe what you have here right now tonight? What is this place all about for you?
Well, my wife and I bought this old wrecked auto body shop about 4 years ago and turned it into an art studio for my wife. She's Catherine Morrissey. She's a landscape artist, and the large room, as you can see around here, we've turned into sort of an art gallery and a music concert space. And every year I do 2 or 3 series of anywhere from 12 to 14 weeks. And this is the first situation in about 45 years where I don't face the possibility of being thrown out because my music is too intimidating or too radical, to be background music. So I've been thrown out of a lot of spaces, a lot of restaurants. I've had apples thrown at me. But here, this is a perfect situation, and sometimes I bring in musicians from other parts of Ontario and Canada. This last series, I'm concentrating mostly on London people, and I'm closely associated with the Neil Spasm Band, and they're the pioneers of noise music. And they all live in London and were essentially started by Greg Cournot in the early 60s. And I think 3 or 4 of the members are still living today. And I often do things with them and together and in partial groups, or I have some of the members sit in with my series. So I try to be fairly open-minded, even in terms of what I present here. I pretty well give everybody a free rein to do entirely what they want on their own terms. So hopefully they feel that way as well.
That's great. Thanks, Eric.
Okay.
We're done.